So I'm just going to jump right into it. So right here, I am trying to do something called a Game Boy DMG 101 mod, I believe. It is where you put the Game Boy Advance SP motherboard into a DMG shell. And so right here, you can just see me opening up the Advance SP, just trying to get the motherboard out of it. And yeah, that'll be happening for like another minute or so. So the main reason why I want to do this is because I grew up with the Advance SP. It is one of my favorite consoles of all time. So many hours of Pokemon on it. However, as I've gotten older, I've been finding the form of it kind of lackluster. And as I've like grown over the years and everything, my hands have gotten quite bigger. And so it doesn't quite fit right in my hands. It's a bit too small, which is where the DMG really outshines it, in my opinion. I like that it's a bit bigger, a bit more robust. So that's the main reason why I'm trying to do it. So right here, I have one of the most important components for this whole project. It is a directional board. Now right here, I actually have the wrong one. This one is meant for a Game Boy Color shell, not the DMG, which is something I didn't notice until I finished soldering everything, which is annoying. So later on, I do notice that and I change it out. But right here, you can just see me going through the process of soldering a bunch of wires to it. And essentially what a directional board is just the button contacts of the motherboard kind of separated onto their own piece, so that you could do modding with stuff like this. And essentially it's just to like help move it away and to change the layout of the buttons. So that's really the main reason. But yeah, right here I'm just soldering a bunch of wires for them, and I have them each color coded. I believe blue is for the D-pad, and then red for A and B, and then I believe black for start and select, and I have a green ground cable. And then so yeah, these will all go from the directional board onto the motherboard itself. So this is just me going through the process right here. Okay, and I guess as this is going, I'll just talk about some of the other projects I've seen. So online, while researching this project, it has been done before. However, from what I saw, there was a lot of soldering and a lot of hot glue usage, which I preferably avoid. I don't want to use any hot glue on projects like this. Granted, this is like my second project or something like this. Or at the time of recording this, it is. Although I have not finished that other one yet. Kind of procrastinating that and putting it on hold. But so yeah, I really just wanted to avoid using hot glue on this. So instead, I decided to design and 3D print a lot of parts for this that I will go over in more depth a lot later on. Okay, so as I solder on the last wire, still on the wrong directional board, I will be bringing out the motherboard. Now, I found this image online of all the touch points, I believe that's what it's called, for each button. And that's essentially what I'm soldering each wire to, just to the corresponding button. And so this will make it, once the directional board receives a signal, it will be able to convey that to the motherboard, which will then input the command into the game or whatever you're doing at the time. But yeah, this was really tricky just because of how small the points are and how delicate they could be. I saw some people online say that they've burned off these points before or something to that nature, where it's just kind of ruined the touch point completely to the point where they can't really do anything else with it. But I don't know if that's repairable or not. I'd have to like look it up. But yeah, this was at the time one of the more difficult parts of this whole project right here. Although not the most difficult, as I have yet to do that part because I've been procrastinating it. Okay, so right here, just as I finish sort of on the last wire, I am now going to pull out this test shell that I got online off of AliExpress, I think. It was really cheap, pretty low quality though, which is to be expected. As this is just a practice one that I'm going to like scar and mess up completely as I'm going through this project. But right now I'm just testing everything, and you can see a different directional board, because at this point I did notice, and I resoldered all the wires to the right directional board, so now it'll fit into a DMG shell. And so yeah, I'm just screwing it in just to test all the buttons to make sure I soldered everything correctly and that it's all working. And so yeah, and then I'm just gonna have to like plug the screen in after screwing all the screws in. yeah, just gonna have to plug the screen in. And then I am using the back of the SP shell just to help hold the battery in and the game in place. Alright, so right here is actually when I power it on for the first time to make sure it works. And I'm using the Namco Museum game, or the game cartridge, to just test it on. Just because that's just what I had like right next to me at the time. And so as I try it out, I'm noticing that all the buttons are working. You know, I didn't screw anything up, it's not short circuiting or anything like that. So I was really happy with it, just because this is my first time of soldering stuff, just soldering to points so small. But and I'm not really confident at soldering it at all. So I was really excited for it. But yeah, right here you can see me testing out all the buttons, making sure the D-pad works, the start and select button, that everything works. So right here you'll see the first 3D printed part I made. It is more so of a frame, I guess you could call it. So the inner box shows is to size of the screen display, and the outer box you put the whole part into the shell frame right here, so that you could see what parts need to be trimmed away, so that you could actually see the screen. So it's more of a template, I guess. Yeah, that's the word I was thinking of, template. And so yeah, you just want to put it in, and then carefully using the X-Acto knife that I'm using here, you just score the lines and then cut away at it. And took me a while, and annoyingly struggled with this for some reason. I don't know why. Annoying to deal with, but eventually I got it, and I was able to just cut away at it. And then afterwards, once cutting everything, I did pull out a file just because of the cut. I'm using like clippers to cut away at it after the X-Acto knife. And so I just used the file to help smooth everything over, make sure nothing could cut the electrical components or anything like that. And then after filing it, I'm just retesting. Once I put the screen in, it'll actually, you can see the whole thing without any issues. One of the next issues I had is that I had to cut away a bunch of the post behind the screen part, just because the screen would not fit. So as you see, if I put it in right here, a bunch of the posts are in the way. So I dealt with this just by cutting the 3 posts, I believe there's 3 of them, on the right side first, just to get just to clear that out. And then I ended up keeping the 2 on the top all the way through the project. But eventually I also had to get rid of the ones on the left side later on, just because I realized that the screen wouldn't be centered if they were there. But yeah, so right here I'm just cutting away at them with the clippers, and I'm retesting it just to see like what do I need to cut away further on. So right here, as I'm testing the screen, it looks good. However, it's not completely lined up on center, which for some reason I have slight OCD when it comes to these things, so it'll annoy me a lot. But so we'll be getting to my next 3D printed part, which is this bracket for the screen. So the bracket's supposed to go into the shell, and then this, which holds the screen in place. And then later on, I designed a back piece to it just to really hold it in so that it won't shake around or anything. But this is my very first one that I 3D printed, and there are some errors, whether that was me modeling it not accurately, or just 3D printer tolerance wasn't as good. So as I tried to fit the screen in, I noticed that it's a bit tight in some areas, and I'll actually flex the frame a bit, which was not good, but I eventually fixed that issue just by widening the gap a bit. And I'm right here as I'm trying it, with the left two posts are still there, so I just decided to cut the frame as I try it. And as I do it, I'm also marking where the two posts are on the top, because I actually didn't measure those out. I kind of just guessed where they were. And but yeah, I did end up using them to help screw the bracket into the shell. So yeah, it was pretty convenient for those being there for me. And yeah, so right here I'm just scoring where they where it looks like they are underneath the frame, just so that I could grab the cutters again and just cut around them to help line it up so I could make sure that the screen goes in. And as I do the last parts of the cutting, and I put the frame in, or at least what's left of it, and then I'll just try to line everything up correctly so that it all fit. And as I put the screen in, I now realize that I do have to cut those posts on the left side so that I can get the screen to be properly centered with the shell, so that it just won't be off center or off to one side, which will be very annoying for me. So yeah, right here I'm just getting rid of those final two posts, and then I'll retry it again, and then notice that it'll completely fit. And now I'll just plug everything in one last time, just so that I can actually see it all together and that everything looks correct and looks completely centered. So that's what's just happening right now. And once everything looks good, I go on to the next part, which is a lot of 3D printing. So much 3D printing. I think I've made, at this point, where I'm at currently now, because I haven't finished the project yet, I think I've made 8 different 3D printed parts for this. And it was a lot of trial and error for the sizing, the correct dimensions, for all of them. But yeah, it was very annoying for them. Yeah, right here I'm just making sure that the screen looks centered, it looks correct. All of the screen is showing, so that I cut away everything that I needed to out of the shell. And yeah, that's just everything right here.